Fortnite OG's loot pool brings back tons of memories, but not all of the weapons are exactly as we remember, so which ones should you pick up and which ones should you ditch? Let's start with the classic assault rifle, which I can safely say is one of the weapons of all time. It's basically the same as it was in the OG days, besides it now only having a 1.5 times headshot multiplier instead of 2 times, and a slightly slower reload time. It's still a good weapon, with the only downside being that it's not very accurate. It's going in the B tier. The Scar also kept its stats luckily, and since it does more damage and is a bit more accurate than the standard AR, it deserves the A tier. Then there is the Burst, which was actually changed a lot just for Fortnite OG. Before, it did 31 to 37 damage per shot depending on the rarity, but now it does 23 to 28 damage? What the fuck? I feel like not many people even picked this up before the nerf, so why did they make it even worse? I guess there's value in it firing 3 shots quickly, and it's actually way more accurate than the normal AR. But that doesn't save it from being pretty mid. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Then we've got one for the sneaky people, the suppressed AR. It is 30 to 33 damage and is very accurate with its first few shots. Considering it has a 5.5 fire rate just like the standard AR, I would pick it up over that, but not over the Scar. But why is there so much damage fall off for a scoped weapon? Yeah, the scoped AR is definitely one of the worst guns in the game. It used to do 26 damage with 3.5 fire rate. Now it does 32 damage but only has 2 fire rate. It also has an epic and legendary variant now, which do a little more damage. There's basically no reason to pick it up though. At close range it's useless. At medium range there are much better options, and at long range it barely does any damage. It has a few redeeming qualities, like how it's 100% accurate and its 2 times headshot multiplier, but that doesn't save it from going into L tier. Moving on to a scoped weapon that's actually good, the bolt action. The classic sniper that does 100 damage body and 1 shot headshot. Obviously this is a good weapon deserving of B tier. There's also the hunting rifle, which can fire decently fast because of the short reload time. It only does 86 to 91 damage though, meaning it can't one shot in 0 build because of the 50 extra shield you get, which makes it a little worse than the bolt. Though the epic and legendary versions do 96 and 100 damage. It's also pretty accurate even when you don't aim down sight, meaning you can kind of double pump with it, but I probably wouldn't recommend that strategy. But these are honestly useless compared to the semi-auto. With 10 bullets in its magazine and a fire rate of 1.2, you'd think it do less damage. And yeah, it used to do 75 damage, but in chapter 3 it was buffed to 97 for the green variant and 101 for the blue one. Since it also has a 2.5 times headshot multiplier, it can one-shot headshot now. Even in 0 build, the blue version one-shots. It honestly shreds. Definitely pick this one up. S tier. Let's move on to SMGs with the SMG, which is just your standard run-of-the-mill SMG. But despite its boringness, it's really good. It fires fast and does good damage, but it's not like overpowered or anything. No. I'd put it in A tier. There's also the P90, which comes in epic and legendary. Same stats as the SMG, but higher damage. So it's going in A tier as well. We also got the suppressed SMG bag, which is honestly kinda mid. It is 20 to 22 damage, but only has a fire rate of 7.8 compared to the standard SMG's 11. It is way more accurate when aiming down sights though, which makes it a decent medium range weapon. But while moving around, it has so much bloom, which makes it not as useful as a close range weapon. Low B tier. On the other hand, we have the LMG, which is pretty crazy actually. It has a fire rate of 7, but does 25 damage. Only 8 shots and your opponent is dead. On top of that, it's very accurate when aiming down sights now, so it's a great close and mid-range weapon. Definitely a high A tier. My ideal loadout is probably this, a semi-auto, and a shotgun. Speaking of shotguns, you can't go wrong with a pump. It's a classic weapon that always does good damage. You really don't want to be hit with this, A tier. But then there is the epic and legendary pump, which hit even harder. While they don't one pump anymore, I still think they're deserving of S tier. Now this might be a little controversial, but I don't think the tactical shotgun is very good. It can hit hard when you're close to people, but you have to be really close. But even then, the pump will do more damage, and I feel like the pump followed up by the SMG is more effective. It also has like no range. Even if you're like 2 tiles away, it does 20 damage. B tier. Now the epic and legendary version, they're a different story. They do a higher amount of damage and also have some range. It's definitely better to pick these up than a grey or green pump. A tier. Of course, we can't forget about the heavy, which although I personally love it, it's not as good as the pump. It only does 74 damage and 150 headshot. But where it shines compared to the other shotguns is at the range. It will do decent damage at medium range, making it useful in some situations, but I would still only give it a B tier. Now let's talk about the least useful weapon category, the pistols. The standard pistol is back, but now it fires automatically, meaning you can hold down the shoot button instead of spamming to keep firing. It does 24 to 26 damage and has a fire rate of 6.75, making it pretty fast. Where it fails is with how inaccurate it is. You have to be really lucky to hit shots, but because of the 2x headshot multiplier, it can really shred sometimes. I think C tier is a good spot for it. Then there is a suppressed pistol, which does a little more damage than the standard pistol, and it's slightly more accurate. Besides that, it's basically the same. Then we've got the hand cannon, which does around 80 damage per shot and has a fire rate of 0.8. It is mostly used like a sniper, and with its 2x headshot multiplier, it can do good damage. It is also way easier to hit with, since it's a hit scan weapon. Definitely a useful weapon, especially in zero build. A tier. Last but not least, we have explosive weapons, one of which is the grenade launcher. It comes with 6 in its magazine and does 70 damage per grenade. Unlike the OG version, it now explodes about half a second after bouncing, which makes it a lot more useful. It's not going to win any awards anytime soon, but I'm putting it in B tier. Finally, we have the RPG, which is obviously very useful. It does 100 to 130 damage and does like 300 damage to build. This one is definitely a bit annoying to deal with, especially in zero build. There's no way to stop it there. It's free damage for anyone who uses it. A tier. So as of recording this, they actually added 3 more weapons to the game, which we're gonna rank real quick. Both the heavy ARs I'd put in low A tier, the double barrel would go in low B tier, and the 6 shooter is just going in D tier. So here's my final tier list. Let me know in the comments which weapons you guys like using, and if you agree with my ranking or not. I might make a video about the consumables and utility items soon, because there's a lot to talk about there. So subscribe with the bell on if you don't want to miss that, and leave a like please. Doei!